Cleverson. Rivaldo's dummy. Ronaldo! And Ronaldo is rampant now. 2 for Brazil. And is that their 5th World Cup?
He makes it! Italy, World Cup champions 2006!
Oh, it drops for Fabregas, who looks for Iniesta, who's onside!
Aimed in for Kurtza! And Germany are the champions of the world.
The first teenager to score in a World Cup final since Pelé!
France are the champions of the world.
It's Gonzalo Montiel for Argentina.
He wins the trophy is passed into the hands of genius.
Okay, right. Before anyone says anything, yes, I know some of you are already typing in the comments. Before your fingers even touch the keyboard, I already know what you're going to say. You disrespected my nation. How is insert team here that low? You're a fraud. Yeah, fine. But here's the thing. Someone has to go at the bottom. I cannot put all 48 teams in first place. That is physically impossible. So if your nation ends up in the lower half of this list, I need you to breathe. Take a walk, pet a dog, do something. We are ranking every single team in this World Cup, all 48 of them, from the absolute worst to the team I genuinely think can win the whole thing. And I'm basing this on squad quality, recent form, tournament pedigree, and just a little bit of gut feeling. Because let's be honest, football doesn't always care about logic. And look, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You can come back at me in the comments. But right now, right here, this is how I see it. Let's get into it. Like and subscribe, by the way. Genuinely helps more than you think.
Right, let's start at the very bottom. And I know this is going to upset some people, but it has to be done. 48th, Qatar. And before anyone from Qatar watches this and starts typing, I'm sorry, but I'm not. Qatar's domestic league is decent. They've got some chemistry because half the squad plays together week in, week out. But when they go up against actual international football at this level, it falls apart. Their form in recent Asian competitions hasn't been convincing at all. And when I look at the squad on paper and think about who they're going to come up against, I just don't see where the goals come from. I genuinely think there are teams at the bottom of this list who would fight harder in a World Cup game than Qatar. Not because Qatar are bad people. They're not. I just think the ambition might not be there in the same way. So, 48th, bottom of the pile. Sorry. 47th, Curacao. Look, lovely kit. I mean that sincerely. One of the better kits in the tournament, actually. But on the pitch, they got beaten 4-1 by Scotland in a friendly. Their qualifying path was not exactly a gauntlet of world-class opposition. And when they faced any team with a bit of quality above them, they've struggled. Love the story, love that they're here, but 47th is where they are. 46th, Haiti. Now, Haiti have actually done a couple of things recently that impressed me. They beat Costa Rica. They beat New Zealand 4-0 in a friendly, which, yes, friendlies are friendlies, teams are rotating, nobody's going full tilt. But still, there's something there. There's an energy with Haiti. I kind of want them to do something at this tournament. But wanting it and predicting it are two different things, so I've got to be realistic. 46th. 45th, New Zealand. I apologize to every single Kiwi watching this right now, truly. But listen, outside of Chris Wood, this squad does not have a huge amount going on at the top level. Tim Payne gets mentioned sometimes, fair enough, but the service into Wood in these games just hasn't been there. And if he doesn't get the ball, he might as well not be on the pitch. They gave England a decent game and only lost 1-0, which is credit to them. But against the level they'll face here, 45th. 44th, Iraq. Iraq surprised a few people just by getting here, and fair play. The 1-1 draw with Spain in a friendly raised a few eyebrows. But let's not get carried away. Spain were rotating. Iraq making it through the Intercontinental Playoff doesn't exactly mean they're ready to knock off top 10 nations. Still, they're competitive, they're organized, and they won't just roll over. 44th. 43rd, South Africa. To my fellow South Africans, and I know there are a few of you watching, I love you, but I have to be honest. The recent African Nations Championship was not convincing. They struggled to beat Nigeria and Uganda. They can sit in a low block and make life difficult. They can grind out draws. But for a team to go far in this tournament, you need more than that.
43rd, South Africa. To my fellow South Africans, and I know there are a few of you watching, I love you, but I have to be honest. The recent African Nations Championship was not convincing. They struggled to beat Nigeria and Uganda. They can sit in a low block and make life difficult. They can grind out draws. But for a team to go far in this tournament, you need more than that. 43rd. 42nd, Jordan. Here's one that might surprise you a little bit. I'm actually putting Jordan a touch higher than most people would. They made it to the final of the Asian Cup not that long ago. They knocked out Saudi Arabia on the way. They took Morocco to extra time in that final. Against Switzerland in a recent friendly, competitive. They can get a draw against South Korea. Jordan are organized. Jordan are disciplined. And at a World Cup, discipline counts for something. 42nd, but genuinely, don't write them off. 41st, Cape Verde. And Cape Verde might be the most underrated team in this entire tournament. They beat Serbia 3-0. They beat Finland. They beat Cameroon. Out of all the so-called smaller nations here, Cape Verde have the most genuine chance of causing a proper upset in their group. In fact, when they face Saudi Arabia, I kind of back Cape Verde. I know that's a take. I stand by it. 41st on this list, but they could easily prove me wrong. 40th, Uzbekistan. First World Cup, first time on this stage. And look, they're not a complete embarrassment. Against the Netherlands recently, they were actually reasonably competitive. They defended with some discipline. They won the CTFA Nations Cup, though the level of competition there is what it is. The one notable result is Iran. Beating Iran is worth something, but 40th feels right for a debutante nation finding their feet. 39th, Panama. Panama are what they are. Awkward, hard to play against. They'll sit deep, be physical, make it uncomfortable. In the Nations League against CONCACAF teams, they've shown they can punch, but they're not going to dominate games. They're not going to control possession and take teams apart. 39th. 38th, DR Congo. The Leopards have some real players. If you watch English football, you'll recognize a few of them. They drew with Morocco at the AFCON. They drew with Denmark recently. And that DR Congo squad is not a pushover by any stretch. They could go a bit higher on this list, and I wouldn't argue with you, but 38th is where I've landed. 37th, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia will be awkward, hardworking. They've got Aiden Dzeko who can still lead the line and score. They beat Italy at some point, though Italy being an absolute disaster is practically a given at this point. You know what happened, Italy. You know. Bosnia are competitive. They won't embarrass themselves, but they won't go deep either. 37th. 36th, Ghana. Ghana on paper have some names. Kudus, Inaki Williams, Semenyo. There's talent there, but their recent form has been all over the place. They've been losing to nations ranked above them almost every time they play. They didn't even qualify for the last AFCON properly, didn't win a single qualifier. That's Ghana, a team that should be better than their results suggest and somehow never quite gets there. 36th. 35th, Czech Republic. I know, some of you Czech fans are pulling your hair out. But look, outside of a couple of solid defenders and maybe one or two creative players, this Czech Republic squad doesn't particularly excite me. They're organized, they're European, but there's no real cutting edge, no real wow factor. They'll be fine in the group stage, but I don't see them doing much more. 35th. 34th, Tunisia. Solid, defensive, hard to beat. Tunisia will sit deep, be compact, and make it difficult for everyone they play. But you need to actually score goals to win a World Cup. And Tunisia scoring 2, 3, 4 in a game? I'm not seeing it. 34th. 33rd, Iran. Iran is genuinely one of the hardest teams to rank in this whole tournament. Politically, there's a lot going on. In terms of their football, they haven't played many nations outside of their own region since the last World Cup. So what are we actually measuring? Are they at the level they were before? Better? Worse? I genuinely can't tell. And not uncertainty is why they sit here. 33rd. Could be higher, could be lower. I just don't know. 32nd, Saudi Arabia. Okay, hear me out. I've put Saudi Arabia higher than a lot of people would. And the reason is simple: money. Not in a dodgy way, but in a real way. The investment in the Saudi Pro League infrastructure, the coaching improvements, the level players are training at every day, that has to count for something eventually.
I think there's modest improvement in that squad, and they'll be more competitive than people expect. 32nd. 31st, Australia. Australia don't make complete sense to me, and I mean that as a compliment. Their squad is not spectacular on paper, but they just have this unity, this stubbornness, this refusal to lie down. They beat Japan and Saudi Arabia in qualifying not that long ago. They only just lost to Mexico in a friendly and drew with Switzerland. They will be competitive in every game, and that knock for being in games when they shouldn't be, that's worth something. 31st. 30th, Senegal. Big call here from me. Big call. Senegal have Sadio Mane. When he's fit and when he's motivated, there's quality there. They've beaten England in recent friendlies. They've got good players across the squad. But the consistency just hasn't been there. One game brilliant, next game, you wonder what happened. So I've put them here with the caveat that on their day, they could genuinely bother anyone. 30th.
29th, Scotland. Yes, Scotland, 29th. And I genuinely think that's fair. Trent Alexander-Arnold is a key player. Scott McTominay has had a great season. John McGinn is one of the best midfielders in that range of teams. Scotland came into this tournament off the back of decent qualifying form. They'll be organized under their manager, and look, I just have a feeling. I think Scotland might actually win a game at a World Cup, maybe more than one. I'm riding with it. 29th. 28th, Egypt. Egypt is Mo Salah. That's it. That's the team. And Mo Salah, when he's on it, can be the difference between a nothing game and a famous result. They also have Marmoush, who has had a genuinely fantastic season. The rest of the squad is solid. They drew with Spain in a recent friendly, which, yes, is a friendly, but it shows they can keep it tight against quality. 28th. 27th, Colombia. Colombia are gritty, tough, and hard to beat. They drew with Ecuador, they beat some decent CONMEBOL opposition. They're not flashy, they're not going to entertain you every game, but they will fight. They will make it awkward. And in knockout football, awkward goes a long way. 27th. 26th, Ecuador. Ecuador haven't lost a single competitive game since 2024. Not one. Not against Brazil, not against Uruguay, not against Argentina. They drew a lot, yes, but they didn't lose. That defensive record is remarkable. They drew against USA, Canada, and Mexico in 3 consecutive friendlies. Honestly, maybe I'm underrating them, but 26 still feels fair because they don't score enough to go much deeper. Defense wins championships, but you need to score at least once. 25th, Paraguay. Paraguay are awkward, always have been. They make life difficult for South American giants. They beat Brazil in qualifying, they beat Argentina, but the key man going into this tournament is unavailable through injury, and that changes things significantly. Without him, they're a different team, and that's knocked them down my list. 25th. 24th, Canada. Canada have some real talents now, young players who can genuinely play at this level. They got draws against Ecuador and Colombia going into the tournament, and having a home tournament effect, even partially, helps. I've got them a touch above Australia because I think the individual quality ceiling is a bit higher. 24th. 23rd, Sweden. Sweden have strikers, 2 of them that any national team would take. And they've got Isak, who has had a phenomenal club season. But there's just something off with Sweden. They barely scraped through qualifying, didn't win a single group game against Switzerland, Slovenia, Kosovo. Didn't win one. They made it through the back door, essentially. So yes, they have players, but 23rd is as high as I can take them. There are too many questions. 22nd, South Korea. South Korea are competent, solid, organized, experienced in tournaments. On a good day, they're really hard to beat. On a bad day, they draw with Oman and Palestine, and you wonder what's happening. Inconsistency is their enemy, but tournament football tends to suit them. 22nd. 21st, Algeria. Algeria I actually rate more than people might think. They beat Netherlands in a recent friendly. They beat DR Congo at the AFCON. They drew with Uruguay. That's a decent run of results. They're organized, they're physical, they can hurt you. 21st, potentially a dark horse in their group.
20th, Turkey. Arda Güler. That's why Turkey are in the top 20. If he stays fit, if he plays, if he gets freedom, Turkey can hurt anyone. They also showed against Spain that they can compete at the top level. The inconsistency is always there with Turkey, but when they're good, they're very good. 20th. 19th. Mexico. The co-hosts, and being a host nation matters. It matters mentally, it matters in terms of crowd. Mexico are organized, experienced, they know how to grind results in CONCACAF. but internationally against top 10 nations, they've drawn and lost more than one. I think they make it out the group, but face a very tough task after that. 19th. 18th. USA. Right alongside Mexico, but just behind. The USA have improved significantly. They only lost 2-1 to Germany. They've beaten Japan. They smashed Uruguay 5-1. But then they lost to Belgium and Portugal on the other hand. The ceiling is high, but the floor is inconsistent. And at a World Cup, you need to be able to raise your game in every single game. 18th. 17th. Austria. Austria are a team I don't think enough people talk about. They're structured, organized, tactically disciplined under their manager, and they've got players who know their roles. Not flashy, not exciting, but they'll be in every game they play, and they'll make life difficult for Portugal and Argentina in their group. 17th. 16th. Norway. Erling Haaland. I mean, come on. When you have potentially the best number 9 in world football, you can't rank you that low. He has been in the form of his life this season. Odegaard pulls the strings. They've got Sorloth as a backup, who plays for Athletic Madrid, by the way. Not exactly a bad option to have. They entered this tournament with form and confidence. 16th. Genuinely could go top 10. 15th. Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast beat France in a friendly. France. Okay, yes, rotated squad, I know, but still, France. They've got Kessié, Frank, Adingra. The quality is there. The inconsistency is always the issue with them. Defensively, they can be exposed, but on their day, they can absolutely hurt a top team. 15th.
14th. Switzerland. Switzerland just quietly get to the later stages of tournaments, and nobody really notices until they're there. Shaqiri, Embolo, Vargas, Ndoye, Xhaka, solid, experienced players. They'll come through their group. They might well make the quarterfinals again. Nobody will be surprised, and nobody will be that excited, but they'll be there. 14th. 13th. Morocco. The 2022 semi-finalists. That performance in Qatar gave Moroccan football a completely different energy, and that doesn't just disappear. They're defensively excellent, organized, hard to break down, and with a few quality players going forward, they can cause serious damage. 13th, and I wouldn't be shocked if they go deeper than that. 12th. Belgium. I've got a feeling about Belgium this tournament, and I'll tell you why. The golden generation pressure is finally gone. There are no more expectations. Nobody is saying this is Belgium's year, because everyone knows that era is over. And sometimes, when a team has nothing to prove and no pressure on their shoulders, they just go and play. Doku, when he's fit, is frightening. Tielemans leads this group. Defensively, they have questions, but maybe, just maybe, the freedom suits them. 12th. 11th. Netherlands. On paper, this is a good team. Van Dijk at the back, Gakpo, Reinders in midfield, but something is just off. The form going into this has been poor, losing to Algeria, drawing with Ecuador, barely beating Uzbekistan, and in attack, I just don't see the killer instinct. 11th feels about right. I hope they prove me wrong, but I'm not convinced. 10th. Japan. The ultimate hype team, and I'm buying the hype. They beat England, they beat Brazil. At the last World Cup, they knocked out Germany and Spain in the group stage. Japan at a World Cup is a different Japan to Japan in every other competition. They rise to the moment. They're fast, they're technically brilliant, they're tactically smart. 10th. And if I'm being honest, they could go further.
9th. Croatia. Modric is at the end. Everyone knows it. The younger players around him are stepping up. Sucic is special. Pasalic has had another strong season, and Guardiola at the back is going to be a top 5 center back in the world in 2 years. Croatia at a World Cup always overperform. 3rd place last time, runners up the time before. Never write off Croatia. 9th. 8th. Germany. Florian Wirtz, Jamal Musiala, the 2 best young attacking midfielders in European football, playing in the same team. Germany don't have an obvious number 9, and there are some defensive questions, but the creative engine room is elite. They've lost only 1 game in their last 10 or so, and they came into this tournament hungry after 2 embarrassing group stage exits. They will not be going out early again. 8th. 7th. Brazil. Brazil in 7th feels harsh, but it also feels right. Carlo Ancelotti coming in is a massive deal. If anyone can manage these egos and get this group pulling in one direction, it's him. But the squad still has Neymar hovering around it, which is a distraction, whether he plays or not. Young Estevan has been ruled out injured.
There's no established striker, and the recent form in qualifying wasn't great. They lost to Bolivia, they drew with Venezuela. On their day, this team is magnificent. On a bad day, they look like they're playing at half pace. 7th. 6th, Portugal. The best midfield in the tournament. Bruno Fernandes, João Neves, Vitinha. I'm putting that against any other country's midfield and backing Portugal. Nuno Mendes at left back is one of the best in the world in that position. Defensively, they've been excellent. The question mark is Ronaldo, always. How much does the team accommodate him? Does his presence restrict the system? The last Euros showed what can happen when Ronaldo becomes the entire tactical plan, but the Nations League showed they can win with him. 6th, and honestly could go higher if they get the balance right. 5th, England. Harry Kane is playing the best football of his career. He doesn't stop scoring, he doesn't stop leading, and around him, Bellingham, Saka, Trent, Declan Rice coming off a Premier League title, there's genuine quality here. Thomas Tuchel in charge gives England a tactical identity they haven't really had before. The defensive questions are still there. I'm not entirely sure the back four is World Cup winning standard, but if Kane is fit and firing, England can go very deep. 5th.
4th, Argentina. Messi is 38. He is still Messi. He still runs tournaments. He still makes the difference in moments that matter. Inter Miami has been managing his minutes carefully, and that's actually smart. He should be fresh and ready. The squad around him is tight, physical, united in a way Brazil never quite seems to be. They will defend for Messi, they will run for Messi, they will fight for Messi. And in knockout football, that unity is everything. Defending champions, 4th, and absolutely capable of winning it again. 3rd, Spain. The best midfield to attack transition in world football. Lamine Yamal. Yes, he's had a hamstring injury concern, and that's the one cloud over this team. But even without him at full fitness, Spain have Pedri, Rodri when fit, Nico Williams, Dani Olmo. They control games. They pass opponents to death. They're the reigning European champions. The only thing holding me back from putting them first or second is the lack of a pure striker. Ferran Torres has been trying, Morata did his job, but a team this creative needs someone to put the ball in the net, and that slight question mark keeps them 3rd. Still the most likely team to win this in many people's eyes. 2nd, France. Kylian Mbappe. Ousmane Dembélé, the Ballon d'Or winner who might not even be starting some games. That's the level of France's depth. They have Michael Olise potentially coming off the bench. They have Doué, they have Camavinga in midfield, Saliba and Upamecano at the back, Maignan in goal. Every single position filled with world-class or close to it. Deschamps has been getting stick for years about being too conservative with this squad, and honestly, fair. But at a World Cup, that tactical discipline has served France well. They were in the final 4 years ago, they were runners-up, and this squad is arguably better. 2nd. And the team I think wins this World Cup? France are the favorites, Spain are right there, Argentina have Messi, but my pick, my gut, my head, everything pointing the same direction is Spain. Here's why. Yes, I put them 3rd in terms of squad, but tournament football is different. Spain don't rely on one player. They don't fall apart when their main man has a bad game. They have a system that works regardless of who's in it. They've got 11 players who all know exactly what to do. And they've already shown at the Euros that when it matters, when it's knockout, when it's one game, when you need to be better than the team in front of you, they find a way. They found a way against France in the semifinal. They found a way in the final. France might be more talented. Argentina might be more motivated. But Spain might just be the most complete team. And in tournament football, that wins. Right, that's it. All 48 teams ranked. I'm fully aware that approximately half of you are furious right now, and that's fine. That's the whole point of this. The best thing about football is that we all see it differently, and we're all convinced we're right. Drop your rankings in the comments. Genuinely, I read them. Tell me who I've got wrong. Tell me who you think wins this. And if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. It really does help. And there's a ton more World Cup content coming from me before this tournament is done. Right, let's go. Enjoy the football.